Hey, what's up? It's Jackie, the vegan marketer from Influential Vegan, and today I want to share with you something that is very, very cool. Okay, and what that is the core, the foundation of where our actions come from. And really quickly, they come from three different places. The third one, which is deeper than the second one, and the second one, which is deeper than the first one. And with that, why this is important is because if we can understand these three components, right, the deepest level, the deeper level, and the more superficial level, then we can help influence how people act from those three levels. And it gets pretty cool. Okay, so really quickly, I will just tell you those three levels right now, and then I'll go deeper into each one, and then why it matters and how you can actually influence that for yourself or for someone else. Okay, so those first three, those three places that our action comes from is one, desires or outcomes, right? So we all want something to happen. We have a desire, and that is one place where we act from, but I'll explain why that isn't the best place to go towards, right? To inspire someone to act, to accomplish some type of goal is not the best way to do it, because I'll explain later. And the second one is our habits or our systems, right? The habits that we have in place and the systems that we fall into are basically the things that we end up doing every single day, right? Or often. And that is a very powerful place to act from, because people naturally tend to, we're creatures of habit. We are energy efficient. So if we feel like we've solved some type of problem, doing some type of thing, then we are naturally going to go back into the backs of our heads and see what did I do? What have I done before to solve the same problem? Doing the least amount of energy. And that is basically the foundation of our actions, our habits, right? So outcome, habits, and deeper than habits is our identities. Our identities are basically where we decide, or who we see ourselves as, our self-identity, right? And the reason why the self-identity is so important to where our actions come from is because our identities are, well, for one, who we see ourselves as, and two, we do not like the discomfort that comes from being unaligned with our identities. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that's making sense, because it's about to get a lot deeper. So if you look at the outcomes and why that doesn't work too well is because the outcomes of, say, for example, fitness, right? A year or two ago, I actually got into fitness. I really wanted to, not just get a six-pack or whatever else, but, I wanted to get healthy. I wanted to get fit. And that first time I had that outcome, I had that desire of wanting to, lose all this weight and whatever else, right? A few years ago, I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I kept failing and failing and failing and failing, right? I'd be good, I'd have this type of outcome in my head, and I'd be able to do it, for like a week, and then I'll stop, and then I'll get inspired again, and I want to do it, I'll do it for a few days, and then I'll stop. And I was in this constant cycle of trying to get this outcome, but being unable to, actually accomplish it, right? So if we were to look at all the people who wanted to accomplish that goal of getting fit, all of those people who wanted to get fit had that outcome of wanting to get fit. But let's be real, not everyone who decides they want to become fit, who have that outcome, actually acquire it. And the reason why is because our actions and what we end up actually doing does not stem from the outcomes, right? It's definitely a direction in the right place, but outcomes alone do not drive us enough to act there from a consistent basis. And this brings us into the second level. So more than our outcomes, it is our habits, right? Our systems that we have in place. I am reading this book called Atomic Habits, and the author puts this very elegantly, right? He says something along the lines of, we do not aspire to the heights of our goals, but instead we actually fall to the levels of our systems. So we don't aspire to that of our goals, we fall to that of our systems. Are you getting this? Is that making sense? because that is some pretty profound shit right there. And what I mean by that is our habits, the things that we get used to doing every single day, very frequently, is actually where we stem our actions from. So then this goes into question, how do I change my habits? Or this goes into question, how do I change someone else's habits, right? And we know that it's possible to change because if we haven't changed our habits, then how else would we be able to become a different person, right? How would we be able to start building new habits? And what's really important to understand is that as far as influence goes, as far as marketing goes, we can use this knowledge to help, sell our stuff. We can help sell our messages, to sell our products by taking into consideration that people act deeper than outcomes. People act deeper than their habits. Well, the habits is actually a big part of it, but deeper than that then is identity, right? And I was alluding to this a little bit, but it's about who we become and who we think we are. It is our self-image that drives a lot of our action. Is that making sense? Our self-image drives a lot of our actions. It drives a lot of our habits. And the really cool thing is that habits and identity are actually something that academics like to call mutually constitutive. So what this means is that habits build on your identity, and your identity helps you decide on what habits to actually implement. And the reason why identity and self-image are so huge and so crucial is because we do not like the discomfort that comes from cognitive dissonance. Or in other words, we don't like the discomfort of thinking we are one way, but acting and believing and behaving in a completely contradictory way. That's why once I adopted an identity of someone who's into fitness, as someone who goes to the gym, as someone who cares about their health, then my habits and my outcomes and my actions actually were all aligned, right? Everything kind of meshed together. But before, I didn't have that identity of someone who worked out, as someone who was healthy. I was just someone who was trying to be healthy. I was someone who saw myself as unfit, and that was basically the extent of it. And because of that, there was a lot of discomfort. There was a lot of cognitive dissonance between what I was doing and who I was trying to become. And what's really important is that when we're ever trying to create change, when you're trying to influence someone's actions or whatever else, we have to look at this at the level of the identity and who we are helping someone else become. How are we feeding into someone else's self-image, into someone else's self-identity? And this applies not only to someone else's, but to yourself, right? How would you change your own identity, right? What are the things you're doing and the type of influences that you are consuming to shape your own identity? And this is so important, and I'm kind of re-articulating this so many times because identity and changing identity basically comes down to belief. And what good marketing is, as I mentioned in other videos, is that identity, or not identity, but belief is the foundation of marketing, of good marketing, and getting someone to embody that belief. And what that translates to basically is how to change someone's identity, right? And this doesn't happen overnight. This doesn't happen instantly. It happens through very small incremental changes, incremental ideas, right? So by changing someone's belief system, we are actually in essence changing the way they see themselves. Okay, and this is very, very, very powerful because when you understand this, you are actually able to act from this level. You're able to communicate on this level of identity and not on the level of outcomes. Okay, and as a significant other, right, as social psychology likes to say, a significant other is someone who has some type of greater influence on someone's mental conversations that they have in their head, right? So this is, you're more important than, some stranger that someone else doesn't know. And because of that, because you have that place, you have that role as a significant other in whether it's your friends, your families, or your audience's lives, you can therefore craft your messaging to make sure that whatever you're saying actually feeds into the identity that you want them to have. So when you have given them a certain identity, they actually form certain habits around that identity. They form certain actions around that identity. And those habits, again, feed into the identity, and identity feeds into the habit. And through that, you're actually able to create something or somebody who is in alignment with your mission, is in alignment with what you're about, right? And consequently, they'll probably buy your products, they'll probably buy your services, they will buy whatever it is because whatever you're selling is in alignment with their identity, okay? Are you getting that? I'm gonna say it one more time. Whatever you're selling, your message, your product, your service is in alignment with the identity that they have. So there's 2 ways or 3 ways that we can go about this, right? So it's 1, crafting your product, crafting your message, crafting your service around the identity they already have, or it's influencing them and sharing and slightly manipulating. I don't like the word manipulating, but it is basically crafting and supporting a self-image of the other person across who you're talking to and who you're influencing, right? And crafting their self-image into something or somebody that is the type of person that would buy your message, or the type of person that would buy your product or buy your service. Are you getting that? That's pretty freaking cool. So, and then the third way would, I guess, be both, right? By also promoting the type of identity and promoting the type of self-image that, you know, your message or whatever else is in line to, and then also making sure that whatever you're selling, your product, your service is also in alignment with that thing. So like, for example, you know, my message, my content is in alignment with that of the identity of someone who is a vegan, someone who is trying to create some type of change in the world through influence, right? By some type of social means. That's what my product, my service, my content is revolved around. And who I'm serving and the identity I'm trying to craft for you is someone who realizes that they can actually use these concepts and use these strategies to make change, right? I'm trying to make it into your head that you're actually able to use this stuff to create some positive change in the world. And by doing both of those things, you know, very subtly, if I'm doing it effectively or not, I guess we'll see. But, you know, that is the essence of what I'm trying to talk to you guys about, or talk to you about, right? And as far as veganism goes, a lot of the times we don't even have to change the identity, right? And what I mean by this is that a lot of people already don't condone violence. A lot of people already have an identity of someone who's compassionate, right? So for us as vegans to help someone else kind of see that what they're doing is not in alignment with their values that they already have is extremely powerful, because we don't have to change their self-identity too much, right? It's more of just reminding them that what they're doing is not in alignment with who they see themselves as. And if we're able to do that, it's going to be very uncomfortable for them, right? And you know, it's going to be simply because their actions are not in alignment with who they see themselves as. They're not in alignment with their values. You know, that is why people get uncomfortable when you bring stuff up like that. But it's necessary, because if they don't, then they're going to continue to have that, they're not going to have that cognitive dissonance, right? And it's only through that discomfort is someone actually able to feel compelled enough to match their actions with their identity, or consequently change their identity to someone who doesn't care, or, you know, whatever else. However, they have to resolve that dissonance, right? But this video is getting kind of long, and all of that was a little heady, whatever else, right? But if you understand this, you know, that's going to help you a lot in your messaging. It's going to help you a lot in how you're able to actually create influence, not only in your audience, but, you know, in yourself, right? Not only in your audience, but your friends, your family, and I guess most importantly, yourself. You know, what are the different identities that you have? What are the identities that you have, and how are your actions that are in alignment with those? How are those serving you? Are you someone who is fit? Are you someone who is a vegan? Are you someone who is an influencer? Are you someone who is for good? Are you someone who's for the culture? Are you someone who is about XYZ? You know, or are you someone who sees yourself as a slacker, who is lazy, who is whatever else, right? And what I'm trying to get at here is that the identities that you choose to have, or that you have and, you know, choose to feed, are going to ultimately shape your life and shape the actions and shape the things that you do. So be very deliberate about the identities that you pick up, the identities that you feed into, and the habits and whatnot that you do. Because again, as Atomic Habits says, we do not aspire to the levels, we do not aspire to the heights of our goals, but instead we fall to the levels of our systems. And our systems are in place largely by our identity and our self-image. Our actions stem from our identity and self-image. Okay, so with that, I appreciate you watching this far. I hope you got a lot of value out of that. If you did, share this video with someone else who you would probably think gets some value out of this. Give it a thumbs up and all that great stuff. So with that, yeah, again, I appreciate you and I hope you have a beautiful day. So talk to you soon.